Tonight's story hits with the kind of energy that stops you mid-scroll and makes you sit up straight. We're talking about a chilling, late-night home invasion in Blantyre that ended with the tragic killing of a respected medical professional, Dr. Victoria Bobe. It's the kind of event that shakes a city, rattles a nation, and raises questions that go way beyond one terrifying moment. What happened inside that home isn't just a crime scene. It's a wake-up call about safety, confidence in law enforcement, and how secure people truly feel in their own houses. So buckle in, because we're breaking this down with clarity, urgency, and just the right dose of straight talk attitude. Let's get into it. Let's start with who Dr. Victoria Bobe really was. Not just the headlines, not just the tragedy, but the person behind the name. She wasn't some random individual caught in the crossfire of a bad night. She was a highly respected obstetrics and gynecologist at Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital, someone who made a direct impact on the health of women and families throughout Malawi. And she didn't stop there. She was also a lecturer at Kamuzu University of Health Sciences, shaping the next generation of medical professionals. That means her influence moved in two directions: saving lives today and training the people who would save lives tomorrow. That is not a small contribution. That is legacy-level work. Her colleagues describe her as dedicated, meticulous, hardworking, and warm. Patients trusted her. Students admired her. She was the kind of doctor whose absence creates a vacuum, because you can't replace someone like that with just any new white coat. It takes years to build that level of expertise, compassion, and consistency. So before we go any deeper into the crime, we need to acknowledge something. This wasn't just a life lost. It was a life that mattered deeply to a profession, a community, and an entire healthcare system. And losing her shakes people. Wait until you hear what actually happened the night everything changed. Now, let's talk about the event itself, the moment everything went from calm to catastrophic. According to reports, it was around 11 p.m., the time of night when most families have locked their doors, turned off their lights, and settled into that safe, comfortable silence. But for the Bobe household, that silence shattered fast. Armed intruders didn't just show up unexpectedly, they came prepared. They allegedly drilled through a brick wall, overpowered the security guard, and forced their way into the house with full intimidation mode activated. This wasn't random noise in the night. This was an orchestrated break-in. Once inside, they confronted Dr. Bobe and her husband, demanding money. And here's where it gets even more horrifying. When they felt they weren't getting what they wanted quickly enough, the situation escalated fast. Within moments, the suspect shot Dr. Bobe in the head, killing her instantly. One family's ordinary night turned into an irreversible nightmare. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. It was a violent invasion with deadly intent, carried out with boldness that shows zero regard for human life. The way the break-in was executed, the drilling, the forced entry, the aggression, suggests confidence, planning, and a disturbing familiarity with the area. And here's the bigger issue. If criminals can do something this bold, this brutal, in a peaceful residential area, what does that mean for everyone else? Hold that thought, because the ripple effect on the nation's health community was just as intense. When news of the killing broke, the shock wasn't limited to neighbors or local residents. It swept across Malawi's entire medical community like a jolt of electricity. Doctors, nurses, students, and health advocates were all saying the same thing. How could this happen to someone who dedicated her life to helping others? And that reaction is powerful because it shows her influence wasn't limited to examining rooms or lecture halls. It was bigger than that. Medical professionals already operate in a high-stress environment. They deal with emergencies, long hours, limited resources, and emotionally heavy cases. And yet, they still show up every day to help people. So when one of their own is brutally killed, not due to an accident, not due to medical complications, but due to violence, it hits differently. It hits painfully. It creates fear, discouragement, and anger. There's a sense of vulnerability that starts creeping in. If someone as respected as Dr. Bobe is not safe, what about the rest of us? Hospital corridors were filled with stunned conversations. Students at her university expressed heartbreak over losing a mentor. Colleagues felt a combination of grief and outrage. This wasn't just a tragedy, this was a blow to morale across an entire profession. Her death wasn't just news, it was a signal, a loud one, that Malawi's health sector is hurting, not only from workload pressures, but now from the terrifying idea that even their homes aren't guaranteed safe spaces. And that fear leads directly to the next question. How on earth did this level of security collapse? This brings us to the big, uncomfortable question. How did such a severe security failure even happen? Because the details of the break-in paint a picture that's not just tragic, but deeply troubling. The suspects didn't sneak through a window or slip through an unlocked door. They allegedly drilled through a brick wall. Let me repeat that. They drilled through a literal wall. If criminals have the time, confidence, and tools to do that without interruption, that means one thing. The system meant to prevent crime is full of gaps. And then there's the security guard, overpowered quickly, with little resistance. This isn't about blaming the guard. It's about recognizing that security measures currently in place may not be strong enough to handle organized criminals. A guard without adequate equipment, backup, or training is essentially a symbolic shield, not a protective one. And what about neighborhood patrols, surveillance, rapid response teams, communication channels for emergencies? When an invasion is this bold, people naturally start asking, where was everyone? How did this slip through every layer of protection? And let's be honest here. Safety concerns aren't new, but this incident pushes them to a whole new level. If criminals can carry out such a loud, forceful, destructive break-in without interruption, then the fear isn't exaggerated. It's justified. Which is exactly why pressure is mounting on law enforcement to step up and deliver answers fast. So, what are the authorities doing? Well, according to official statements, the police in Limbe have launched an active and ongoing investigation. They've opened a murder case, cataloged evidence, and begun tracking leads. A ballistics team is analyzing the weapon used. Detectives are interviewing witnesses, combing the crime scene, and attempting to reconstruct the sequence of events from the moment the criminals breached the wall to the moment they fled. But here's the honest truth. While the investigation is happening, the public isn't just waiting quietly. People are demanding clarity, accountability, and speed. Nobody wants vague statements. They want progress updates. They want suspects identified. They want arrests. When a crime this brutal and this bold happens, the community doesn't want to hear we're still investigating. They want to hear we found them. Police also face another challenge, regaining public trust. Crime cases that shake a nation require transparency, and transparency builds confidence. If law enforcement wants to maintain credibility, they need to communicate clearly, consistently, and confidently. The good news, investigative pressure is high, meaning resources are being pushed toward the case. The bad news, until suspects are caught, communities remain on edge. But focusing on the case alone misses the bigger issue, because this tragedy reveals something deeper about society. Here's where the story widens from one household to an entire nation's psyche, because the killing of Dr. Bobe isn't just a crime, it's a symbol of something bigger. It forces people to confront a tough reality. If a respected doctor living in a secured home can fall victim to such extreme violence, then what level of safety does the average citizen truly have? This is where discussions shift from shock to analysis. People begin asking deeper, structural questions. Are residential security systems outdated? Are neighborhoods under-patrolled? Is the police force under-resourced? Are communities informed enough on how to react during emergencies? And perhaps the toughest question, are criminals becoming more fearless because the consequences for violent action feel too distant? Situations like this expose not only the weaknesses of the protective systems, but also the emotional state of the public. Fear spreads quickly. Anxiety takes root. People start looking at their doors differently. They check their locks twice. They think about alarms, dogs, walls, community watch groups. Every family begins to imagine themselves in the position of the Bobe household, and that's what pushes this story beyond a single tragedy. This incident isn't just about what happened, it's about what it represents. It's about the fragility of safety, the illusion that violence is always somewhere else until suddenly, shockingly, it's not. And when fear mixes with grief, the community's reaction becomes one of the strongest forces shaping the national conversation. When the public heard what happened, emotions surged: grief, anger, confusion, disbelief. Social media lit up with messages of condolence, frustration, and urgent calls for stronger security. This wasn't a passive response. It was active, engaged, and loud. People weren't just mourning, they were demanding change. Medical professionals released statements honoring her contributions. Families expressed fear about sleeping in their own homes. Community leaders and activists began urging authorities to treat this case as a turning point rather than just another report. What makes public reactions so powerful is the honesty behind them. When people are scared, they don't sugarcoat their concerns. They talk openly, sometimes emotionally, about what needs to be fixed. And through all the messages, one theme kept repeating: Malawi can't afford to lose more professionals, more parents, more neighbors to violent crime. Security isn't something you think about only after tragedies, it's something that must be strengthened proactively. The mourning isn't just sadness, it's unity. People across different backgrounds are coming together saying enough is enough. And when communities speak in one voice, leaders have no choice but to listen. Which leads us to the final, essential question: where do we go from here? So what needs to change now? A lot, and not in a slow, gradual, we'll get to it someday kind of way. This incident demands immediate and strategic action. First, residential security must be re-evaluated. In neighborhoods across Blantyre and beyond, home protection systems need upgrades: stronger gates, better alarms, more reliable guards, and clearly established emergency protocols. Second, law enforcement requires reinforced resources. Investigations need modern tools. Patrol units need stronger presence. Response times must improve. Criminals shouldn't feel comfortable operating with precision and confidence. They should feel pressure at every turn. Third, community education matters. People need to know how to respond during emergencies, how to secure their homes effectively, and how to build neighborhood networks that alert each other when something seems unusual. And finally, there must be heightened protection for professionals who play essential roles in society. Doctors, teachers, researchers, engineers. These people carry a nation forward. Losing them sets everyone back. What happened to Dr. Victoria Bobe is tragic, painful, and unacceptable, but it can serve as a catalyst for change, a moment that forces leaders, citizens, and institutions to say, this ends here. And that brings us to the close of this story, but not the end of the conversation. If this story moved you, informed you, or opened your eyes to the reality people face, do one simple thing: share it. Conversations lead to awareness, and awareness leads to change. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe is the #1 security priority Malawi must tackle next? And don't forget to like and subscribe to @GlobalPulseNewz for more sharp, bold coverage that keeps you informed and empowered. Stay alert, stay aware, and take care of each other.